I get a small feeling that the video I'm about to talk about might be a Poe, but the way things are going nowadays, it's really hard to tell the difference, so I'm just going to make the video anyway. In the meantime, we can all enjoy some random white guy telling all white Europeans that they should put the survival of other people before their own, while giving those people all of their money.
For those of us who do want to call ourselves being part of the solution.
Given the way that this guy looks and him using the term part of the solution kind of made me feel like this video was going to go down a completely different path. It's also quite good to see what you get up to in your spare time when you're not the commander of the Brotherhood of Nod.
Part of the solution against racism on this planet. I've got a simple test that will determine your loyalty and expose which side you're really on. If you have to make a choice between the survival of the African collective and the survival of the European collective, which side do you choose?
Obviously that's a very unfair and stupid question because that's not what's actually happening, but you could make it a bit fairer by boiling it right down to who would you rather see survive? Yourself or some random stranger that you've never met? Bye, mate.
Now, most white people who are hearing this right now are in the process, if you haven't already come up with an answer, you're in the process of coming up with some sort of rebuttal to indicate that you don't have to choose sides, that you're for everyone. Well, if you're for everyone, then you're not for black people first.
Well, forgive me for thinking that we're all equal and all human life is sacred. I should obviously be following your method where I value one race higher than I do the others, because apparently that's not racist at all.
You're for creating a solution that's going to ensure your own survival.
So we shouldn't choose the option that would save all lives, we should instead choose the option that would bring an end to all white Europeans. You're not selling this very well.
Unless you're dedicating your life to making sure that every black person on this planet survives.
I think we should make sure that every single person on Earth survives and that race shouldn't actually be a factor, but that's just me.
And unless you're putting yourself in front of the bullet when cops are shooting innocent black and brown people.
Imagine seeing a cop about to shoot a black guy and you dive in front of the bullet. And because you did that, the black guy manages to escape. You then later on find out that the reason the cop was about to shoot the black guy is because he's actually a lunatic on a murderous rampage. And because you let him get away, he went on to kill more people. And you had a lot of time to dwell on that fact because you spent the next 8 months in a hospital because you're paralysed from the waist down. What I'm trying to say is, in the split second that you have to react in a scenario like that, it doesn't really give you time to weigh up all the variables, does it?
Unless you're in Africa working against the genocides that are all perpetuated by European economic imperialism.
Black people are the ones being genocided in Africa.
Daddy, Dankula, don't. Remember your trial.
You're right, Conscience Lolly. No comment.
Nico, Nico, nee.
You're not doing anything to protect black folks. And you can't conceive of a solution that doesn't involve the survival of white people.
I'm very sorry that we want to live.
It's not that I want one group to survive over another.
Despite the fact that that seems to be the main message of this video.
And if you really understood the way that African and indigenous people get down and have always gotten down on this planet, they've never been about killing other groups of people.
Boy.
A civil war between the ethnic Hutu government army and Tutsi rebels, and a genocide war.
Tensions have again exploded into violence, apparently with thousands dead.
And what is happening here is an extreme systematic violation of human rights on a daily basis, an escalation of repression, which might lead to extremely atrocious circumstances, the dynamics of genocide.
They've never even been about taking revenge on us for all the hundreds of millions of people that we've killed.
Boy!
They make him drink from the toilet. They shout expletives against white people.
There's no ethical reason as to why white people deserve to live. Foreign black life means that white death has to occur. That's why you should lose this debate and why your life ain't worth affirming.
And the one idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to.
Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon! Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon! Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon!
We also have very many examples from history of natives and tribes from all around the world going to war and killing each other before any of them even knew that white people existed. My point is, pick any race, pick any religion, pick any country, pick any tribe, and look at their history and you will find many, many examples of armed conflict, either among themselves or with enemies. The point of that is that war and killing people is not a white thing. It's a human thing. The one thing that all humans are universally good at is killing each other.
But at some point, if you had to make that choice, 99.999999% of you would never choose any solution that could possibly lead to you or your family not surviving this.
Did you know that if you ask people whether or not they want to live or die, the overwhelming majority of them will choose to live? I bet you would never have guessed that.
White liberals will only support a solution to the problem that involves the survival of white people.
Liberals actually want all people to survive, but I forgive you for your microaggression. You're obviously one of these people that thinks that white people aren't really people.
And not just physically, financially. How many of you are willing to dedicate your entire life to ending racism? When you get an inheritance based on the opportunities that your grandparents had, or your great-grandparents had, or the murders that your ancestors committed.
The only people that my ancestors killed were the English. You know, other white people who were trying to take their shit. Self-defense.
The land that they stole.
I owe people land. I want you to go onto Google and I want you to type in Highland clearances and then get back to me.
The labor that they stole that they never repaid back.
We did all our own work. We never had slaves. Because we couldn't afford them.
Wall Street that was built on the back. In fact, the entire economic foundations of the European collective that was built on the back of enslaving and exploiting everyone else on the planet.
Yeah, because Wall Street totally doesn't fuck over white people.
That allowed you to receive that inheritance.
The whole inheritance thing has actually existed since pretty much the start of civilization, so I don't think Wall Street had a hand in that.
Are you willing to share that money?
No.
Or do you feel you don't owe it because you're not a racist?
No, I don't owe it because it's my money, you fucking communist. The only thing I inherited from my dad was a shit hairline and a bad temper, and the fucker's not even dead yet. But all the money I have, I earned. I worked for it. I'm even working for it right now, despite the media and the Crown's attempts to prevent me from doing so. Just because someone's white doesn't mean that all of their ancestors were murderous slave owners. Stop stereotyping people based on their skin colour. Racist.
Let me tell you something. White supremacy is not even about racism anymore.
Sometimes the punchlines just write themselves.
White supremacy is about power. It's about control. It's about money. It's ownership of resources. And yeah, sure, a lot of us are racist. There's a lot of white people who hate black people. There's a lot of white people who fear black people. Most of us do. But at the end of the day, we could all love black people. We could have black friends. We could, all of that. But are you willing to give up the money?
Your black friends aren't really your friends unless you give them money.
The stolen money? The money that your family stole?
I haven't stolen any money. I did once steal the caveman from the time capsule. This isn't a confession or anything. I got caught.
You could unlearn all of your unconscious biases as much as you can. You can learn how to treat black people with respect in the office. You can go to protests. You can do all of that, but unless you're willing to part with the resources that were stolen from African people, from indigenous people on this planet.
Big companies do go into Africa and gather up all the resources while paying the workers their absolute dog shit wages, but you do know that these companies can't just go over there and start doing this shit. They need to draw up contracts and make agreements with the people who run those countries. And funnily enough, in Africa, most of the leaders of those countries are black. So even though the companies absolutely do pull sketchy shit like this, it is the country's own black leaders who are letting them do it, because fuck what happens to my resources, fuck what happens to my countrymen. Just as long as I personally get rich, I'm very, very happy for these white men to come over here, take all of our resources and put my countrymen into hard labour. Why does this sound familiar?
Then you're holding on to stolen property, and therefore you are part of the white collective.
White people steal? That's a new one. Does anybody want to buy a bike?
You are part of the white supremacist pan-European collective. And it's time that we stop lying about this shit.
The overall message that I got from this video was that all white European people need to give everything they own to black people and then kill themselves. Okay, mate. You first.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody should subscribe.